Would you launch a rocket without fuel?
Oh no!
Of course not. Then don't launch your automations without testing. Over the years of working with numerous ActiveCampaign accounts, I've created my own testing system to make sure automations are ready to go for the big launch. Let's be real. Nothing is more embarrassing than having a customer inbox full of complaints or misfired emails. In this video, I'm going to show you a few different ways to test ActiveCampaign automation. These are pretty much strategies that I've developed for the past couple of years. This is Marketing and Mustangs. I talk about Mustangs, I talk about marketing. If that sounds good, subscribe button is down below. I'll be testing out a few different parts of an ActiveCampaign automation, like triggering automation, triggering goals, checking email sends, and how to test a contact going through an automation. Now first, we actually need to create a couple of test email accounts. An easy way to do this is simply put a +1 in your email address. For example, mine is dane+1@rockstarintegrator.com. You can create multiple of these test email accounts for multiple tests. Sometimes I assign them. For example, +1 might be opting in but didn't purchase. +2 might be opting in and booked a phone call. +3 might be opted in and didn't make a purchase whatsoever. That way I can kind of test different outcomes pretending to be different customers. Now the other plus side of creating these test email accounts is you can actually view the emails in your inbox. Again, I'm going to be showing you this. With that being said, let's jump to my computer and we're going to go through an automation that I built out just so I can show you every little thing we can test. Here's the automation I'll be testing out. It's a simple lead magnet call to action automation. We have emails, we got timers, we got goals, we got split logic, we have a webhook. Special note, I currently do not have a starting trigger and I'll explain why later, but frankly, we got stuff to test. If you want this whole automation for yourself, down below in the comments, I actually have a link to this automation so you can add it to your ActiveCampaign account. This is one of the reasons why I love ActiveCampaign. It's super easy to share tech like this to get a head start. Don't have ActiveCampaign? I got you. In the comments, I do have a link to get yourself started. It's rockstarintegrator.com/getactive to start your trial today. Let's get to it. Now, the first thing we need to do is we're going to manually add a contact to this automation. So this one's pretty simple. First, we need to go to a profile. I built this one myself. As I mentioned before, this is one of the email addresses I'm going to be using for testing. dane+1@rockstarintegrator.com. Down here in the automation section, we're simply going to add them to the automation. This one right here. Now here's the thing, if that automation doesn't show up in that little window, make sure the automation is live. Now since there is no trigger in this automation, I don't have to worry about any other contact getting in here. That's one of the best reasons why to manually add a person in first, just to make sure no crazy hijinks happen, because sometimes they actually do. Now here on the right hand side we can see the contact's activities. Typically it will show up that they have entered an automation. Furthermore, you can also see what emails they might have received and other information. And going back to the automation, I'm going to refresh the page real quick. By the way, if you see that the page refreshes a few times, one thing to see where contacts are in an automation is to refresh them. So I'm going to refresh the page. And as we can see, we have that contact right there. This is fine and all, but what if this automation is going to be triggered when a contact gets a tag? I got you on that too. Let's get another test profile. Automations can be triggered when a tag is added to a contact, not only internally inside of ActiveCampaign, but externally from another software. Webinar Jam, Kajabi, Zapier, these softwares can also add tags to profiles in ActiveCampaign. If I want to test out this integration, this connection, I'll create a test tag, which I have right here. Now, this tag is going to be applied from a third-party software. Once the tag is applied, it will kick off the automation. A typical example I have used is when a person has opted in from a lead magnet from ManyChat and Zapier. I typically create a very distinctive test tag in ActiveCampaign and use it in the automation trigger. With that being said, let's take a look at Zapier. Here in Zapier, we can tell that I have the trigger to this little Zapier Zap of a new tagged user in ManyChat. Here in the Zapier Zap, we can see that a new tagged user in ManyChat will create or update a new contact in ActiveCampaign. What I'm going to do is I'm going to manually fire this Zapier Zap, and we're going to see the contact go into ActiveCampaign. Now we're going to go ahead and see to make sure that this contact from ManyChat did go to the ActiveCampaign automation. Here's that test opt-in tag, and we can see that they are in the automation. And in the automation itself, we can see that we have 2 people waiting, which is the Dane at Rockstar Integrator and the Dane +1 at Rockstar Integrator. Again, it's kind of nifty having that +1, +2, +3 naming convention for test accounts, because that way we can test out different operations. Now, since we know that Zapier's app is going to work, what I do before actually pushing this live is I will replace both in the Zapier's app and in the automation the actual tag I'm going to be using. Now, as you notice, these people have been added to the automation, whether it be manual or from a tag. They're added to the master contact list, and they will be sent an email. Now, the nice thing about testing it out like this is that you can have a front row seat to seeing what the email looks like. Let me show you. Here's that email. Not really original right now, that example email. This is it. But here's the thing. We know for a fact that it was able to send. And we can actually now test out the rest of these emails. The thing is, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not going to record this video for 24 hours to wait for these guys to move forward. So let's talk about how do we skip wait timers. This is probably one of my favorite ways to test out the full automation. What you do is one of the email addresses that has gone into the automation that we're working on. You go back to the contact profile. You go back down here to automations. This is the guy we're looking. You click on the automation and you bring up this little window, and what we're going to do is we're going to click the view button. Now this looks pretty familiar, doesn't it? This looks just like our automation, but notice how it has a /contact email address. This allows you to see the exact points where people go through. Furthermore, if there's any issues with the automation, such as an email didn't get sent or a person wasn't subscribed to a list, nice thing is that you can go here and you can see when that should have happened, and then you can reach out to ActiveCampaign support. But here's the best part. See this little thing? Want to see a magic trick? Into the future we go. Notice now it has the red X. That's because we manually skipped the person forward. As you can tell, doing this will allow us to go through this whole automation rather quickly. But here's the thing. If you do click skip this action, it will jump forward immediately. So you need to make sure you have the rest of the automation set up. Luckily, we do. So let's go ahead and test all this out. One of my favorite elements to use in ActiveCampaign are jump goals. Jump goals are these guys right here. Pretty much they can be triggered by numerous scenarios. And this one right here is, if this tag exists, jump a person here. If a person is all the way down here and then they get that tag, they're going to go right up here again. Now, why do I have jump goals? Well, a couple of reasons. Say, for example, this is a welcome email and this is a book a call email. If a person books a call, I don't want them sitting here and waiting for 3 days. Sure, I have this logic that would, after 3 days, filter them out and take them over here, but I want that to happen right now, because after the person books a call, I want the person to jump here and to trigger the Zapier's app as soon as possible. I think of it this way. Person books a call, they're waiting here for 3 days, and this webhook right here, which we're going to test later actually, this webhook right here is going to send them crucial information like a Google Calendar invite. You don't want to be waiting around for 3 days to finally get a Google Calendar invite. Now, to actually test this, we need to add this tag in here. We're going to be testing it with good old Dane +1, so I'm going to open up the profile again. Best way to do is actually to center click onto the email address, opens them up in a new tab. Now that we're here, what we're going to do is we're going to add in the tag that will trigger that goal. Now, just like I showed earlier where you can have a third-party software add a tag to a contact in ActiveCampaign, same deal. For this example, I'm manually adding the tag, but say for example, if it's a Calendly integration, great place to do it. Click that. Now, you do want to give it some time so it all activates. Not like an hour, but maybe a couple minutes or so. So this is where we do the fun part where we start just refreshing pages. So for example, I'm going to refresh this contact profile to see what happens in the recent activities, and also in the automation that shows this contact's journey. Could be refreshing that a few times as well. And there you have it. Sure, it does take a couple of minutes. I think I clocked this one at about 2 or so. Even though they were waiting just right here, they jumped over, they hit the webhook, which I'm going to show you the next part, and they ended the automation. Now again, if the person had not gotten the tag to jump over here and they were down here, they will have jumped all the way over. We saw after this jump goal that the contact was going to hit this webhook. This webhook, as you can tell, is from Zapier. With a webhook, it's all about what data is being sent out from ActiveCampaign. Since I had a webhook installed and I've had a person already pass through it, trust me, it's a lot easier to set up a webhook with Zapier, if a person has already passed through it, let's just go ahead and jump over to Zapier and see what information has been sent. Now, typically in Zapier, after a person has gone through the webhook, it'll show some example data. I always like to test the webhook before building out the rest of the Zap so I can get the actual data. Notice how it says contact brackets email? That's how you know it's real data versus the example data, which doesn't have the brackets. I know it seems technical, but once you do it at least 1 or 2 times, you'll get it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this person to an event, just like this. Continue, calendar, event, and then I can just simply add in the person's email address. Click continue, and then I'm going to test. And of course, to really seal the deal, let's make sure this contact was successfully added to that Google Calendar event. And here's that confirmation email. So that means this automation, say for Dane +1, he was added into the automation, subscribed to a list, got the emails, we skipped the wait timer, we got the second email. Instead of waiting for 3 days, we took action, meaning we got to the tag applied, jumped over here, and hit a webhook. And of course, when they hit that webhook, they were added to a Google Calendar event. Pretty snazzy. And that is how you can launch an automation with confidence. Testing each part of an automation is so crucial, whether it be for your business or for your clients. To recap, we tested an automation by adding a contact in, having a tag be added to them, confirmed an email was sent, skipped wait timers, triggered jump goals, and of course tested a webhook. Sounds like a lot? It is. Need an extra hand for your project? Head over to rockstarintegrator.com to have a call with me so we can discuss your next project.
Hey, it's Dane from the training you just watched. And I want to thank you honestly for getting all the way through the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and even leave a comment on something else you'd like me to cover. Down below in the comments and the description, I have some free resources for you guys to take care of, so just go for it. Business is hard enough. I'm just trying to give as much as possible.